Rangers doing Ranger things as they do best.
Yeah.
The Jayco front to rear, front axle is taking around up to 300 kilos more on the front axle than the rear. 300 kilos, that's a fair whack of weight.
So we've got to change the car, haven't we?
Yeah, sure. That's exciting, isn't it?
In episode 2, we told the story of our weighing disaster that resulted in us trading the Pajero for a Ford Ranger. In the lead up to our departure for Tasmania, we had our new rig reweighed. While we were not concerned about key figures, we did have big questions about what weight margin we have for a Bullbar and if our tow ball height is right. The exercise did bring a few surprises, which Michael, our weighing professional, helped us solve. So keep watching to find out what happened. Here we go again. This is, we've had the van and the car now for a few months, at least the new car. So we're back for a weigh again. Hopefully it goes, yeah, take 2, and hopefully it goes better this time. So our worry now is the front axle, because we would like a Bullbar.
Yep.
But we don't know if we've actually got the margin. I've been reading stories about people who are way over with just the car empty, Bullbar over with 2 people.
I'd be surprised. So obviously we're going to start on the Ranger.
Yeah.
So I'll get both of you in. Sorry,
disconnect.
not yet. We will soon. But we're going to weigh the Ranger on tow.
Yeah. Okay.
So we'll pull the Ranger forward. Need you in the car too, please.
Yeah. And then.
So you think you're 292 underweight?
Underweight.
Okay. You're currently sitting 337 underweight.
That's not bad. 40
so
kilos.
You're close. It was very good.
Yeah,
well done. It's close to the most.
Great.
Rear axle. What approximately did you have that?
So that I had no. I can tell you. I think I've got about 3, 4, 5, 520.
Underweight.
No, 520
on the rear
weight
axle.
that I've added on the rear axle.
You're currently sitting at 1699 on the rear axle.
Right.
Remember you lied 1959.
Yeah, so I've got
so
heaps.
You're 260 something kilos.
So we got
somewhere
heaps
in there
on the back.
Yeah.
That's great.
So the car overall is sitting really, really nicely.
Yeah.
Side to side balance, is sweet. You've got 1314 on the front axle. Right, and you were allowed 1490. So what's that, 160 odd kilos, 170 kilos left on the front. So putting a alloy Bullbar will be okay.
So I'll be interested in the figures when we disconnect the caravan.
Oh yeah, that'll make the order.
We do 4-wheel driving as well without the caravan.
Lovely.
So, and you still need to be legal.
Well, currently 63 under on the front axle.
Yeah, you see, that's the problem. And, and we've got 200 kilos of stuff in the boot.
In the rear. Because we're currently sitting 1423 on the front, 1332 on the rear.
So if I put a Bullbar on, the one they recommend is the ARB Summit 2, which weighs 65 kilos, but then that's putting 20% more on the axle.
Correct.
Just can't do it. Can't do it.
And when it's on tow, when it's off tow.
So we got what, 67 kilos. So we can maybe manage a Spartan bar or something like that.
Something
or the hyper light ones. That's a lesson. That's a lesson. Thanks. Didn't feel right. Yeah.
But it's maybe a little bit too close for comfort.
Yeah. Okay.
Just to having just that smaller margin.
Yeah.
And it shows everybody. Once you throw a Bullbar on the front of the standard Ute, your front axle goes overweight.
Yeah. So and
people never think about that.
And we wanted weighing before taking any decisions.
And spending money.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. No, we've done that once.
Yeah. So overall, the weight figures, on tow, the weight figures are fantastic.
Yeah.
You're running, I think the number's 56% of the weight's on the rear versus 44 on the front, which is a really good distribution wise.
Right.
Side to side was amazing. So the Ute, the Ranger's doing its thing. Ranger's always such fantastic tow vehicles. And it's just doing exactly what it's supposed to be doing.
Fantastic.
You've got a lot of weight left up your sleeve.
Super, thanks.
Okay.
Thanks for that, Mike.
So that being said, we'll now get back on tow.
Yeah.
And we'll move on to the Jayco.
Right, let's do that.
Thank you. Two 683.
2683. Wow.
Close. Well done.
So GTM's well under.
Yeah, so car GVM on tow, 337 underweight.
Yeah.
Great. van 117 underweight on tow, GTM. Combination 704 underweight. Yeah, your three main numbers are well and truly under.
Yeah.
You've got a lot of wiggle room, which is fantastic.
Yeah.
Well, a lot better than the Pajero.
Oh,
That was always going to happen.
Yeah.
It was always going to happen.
Yeah.
So that's fantastic. Everything is underweight in the Ranger. The distribution in the Ranger is very good. We'll run through it all at the end.
Yeah.
But the Ranger is super clean. So far, obviously, the Jayco 117 underweight on tow. We'll see what the ATM or the off-tow figure is doing and what the tow ball mass is doing. So that's what we'll get next.
Yeah.
If you don't mind, do you want to pull this connection for me?
Right.
Phones, electronics, everything.
Guess is 275.
275. 251.
Oh wow, that shows you how much comes off. With
Yeah. I mean, adding that weight on the back.
So that's almost a bit light, isn't it?
Yeah. Big scheme of things, you want to be, industry standards 292 would be 10%.
Yeah.
So 258 would be maybe around 8%.
Yeah.
9% goes to that.
Yeah.
Okay. So the front to rear in the van is out by a smidgen, but we'll work on that. So the main three figures that we chase the on-tow figures, right? So what the car weighs on tow, which is the GVM, plus what the van weighs on tow, which is the GTM, obviously equals the GCM, okay?
Yeah.
So starting off with the Ranger, you got 3350 up your sleeve, and it weighed in today at 3013, which is 337 kilos underweight. Okay?
Yeah.
The van, you've got 2800 kilos as your GTM, and it weighed in today at 2683, which is 117 underweight.
Yeah.
And the combination, you've got 6400 kilos, and the whole combination weighs 5696, which is 704 underweight. So that's really good.
Yeah.
So the van's getting to the closest stage.
Yeah.
The Utes perfectly fine.
Yeah.
As you said, add a Bullbar on the front, it's going to be hit and miss when it's off tow. When it's on tow, obviously it'll be fine, but off tow, not so much.
So opportunities, if we want, we could move the ladders which are on the back of the van to the roof of the car.
If you want to right now, you want to move stuff off the back and see what it does?
Just on the ball, I wouldn't mind, I wouldn't
absolutely.
mind seeing what the effect on the ball is.
Absolutely.
I'm thinking it's 55% off, but...
Remember, it's at the 251 right now. $263.
Pardon me?
263.
263.
They added 12 kilos onto the ball just by moving that.
Wow.
12 kilos.
12 kilos out. I think it was... That's the great majority of it. I think that weighs like 18 kilos.
Yeah, in the high box. Because
Wow.
of the fulcrum point. They are a big seesaw. It doesn't take much. So you imagine what 36 litres of diesel, 36 kilos of diesel will do.
Yeah, well, that's just, that'll be 17 or 18 kilos. It's just a 20 litre thing. But, and that, I did want it on in the equation.
No, well, as I said, right now, the whole thing is 2904, so obviously you have lost a little bit of weight because you've taken that off. So, about 20 kilos. 22. But it's brought the ball up from that 251 mark up to which is the GVM on tow, 337 underweight. Car off tow, 595 underweight. Car's rear axle, 260 under the Ford specified limit. Car's towing capacity is 596 under the car's limit. Distribution wise, 50-50 side to side, and 56 on the rear, 44 on the front. So that's really good. The Ranger is doing Ranger things as they do best.
Yeah.
The Jayco, once again, the GTM on-tow figure, your 117 underweight. The ATM, or the off-tow figure, how it sits now, is 78 underweight.
And that's without
the bag on the back.
18 kilos or 20
Correct,
kilos.
that's right. The ball weight without the bag is 263. So that's 87 under your limit, which is 9%. And we got a little bit of play in the van. 52% of the weight's over the driver's side. Now we can look at pulling weight across or by evening that out, but the bulk of caravans are always heavier on the
Yeah.
high side.
Yeah.
That's how they're made to be ergonomically nice to live in.
Yeah.
Always like that.
Kitchen.
Correct.
Kitchen.
Front to rear, front axle is taking around up to 300 kilos more on the front axle than the rear.
I think it's
300 kilos. That's a fair whack of weight. That
interesting.
that in mine is 56%. So that's a fair whack heavier on the front. So we do need to even that out a little bit.
So I need a bit more weight.
The easiest way we can do it is by most likely just raising the ball up a little bit.
All right. Yeah.
Okay, it's the easiest way to do it and the cheapest. Right, so
that makes the ball a bit heavier as well.
Well, it may do, depending on where the fulcrum point of the van is.
Yeah.
Right, because it might make it just that little tiny bit heavier,
yeah.
but it'll push the weight backwards.
So, how many centimeters do we need to go?
Well, let's do it right now. Right, so I'm just going to adjust it up an inch at a time.
Yeah.
And we'll watch these numbers.
Okay.
This is the most interesting point.
Okay. So those were the two big questions I had were the turbo height and the bullbar.
The bullbar.
The bullbar is very well answered.
Yep.
This will
So the
even
turbo
better
height.
answer the.
Right, so we'll start with these figures. So at standard, we're running 1469 on the front axle, 1171 on the rear axle, and 264 on the ball. Okay,
Yeah.
as we are right now. Okay, so 1 inch up, we've gone from 1469 to 1418 on the front axle, and 1171 on the rear, now to 1217 on the rear, and the ball's come up to 6 kilos. So we moved a good 50 or so kilos just by doing that.
So we do another one, and
We'll do another inch. I think that's about as close as we're going to get. 1296 and 1327.
yeah, that's like under 50 kilos.
Yeah. Yeah, so it's 40.
So we need to go with that, but then we're really balancing the weight between our axles properly.
No, yeah, and that's fine. Distribution. So it's currently out by, on the back it's just slightly heavier. So you want to get an adjustable hitch,
Right.
one that's got a short shank that's suited to a Ranger.
Yeah. Okay.
Right, so this is about as close as we're going to get it.
Can you
No,
recommend a hitch?
Absolutely. 27, 28, so that's 31 kilos front to rear out
Yeah.
from 300.
From 300.
From 300.
From 300, and it's like 4 inches.
Something like that, yeah. I'll
So
measure it and give you numbers.
Like 12 centimeters.
Yeah.
My
And
goodness.
now if we stand back and look at it, it should look clean level. That's 0.1 down on the nose now.
0.1 down.
0.1 down. It looks really good. So,
So that's the. Let's go.
talk out. Now 640 minus 55. So what's that? 5. 90. 585. 585 there. 580. So we come up 100 mil. 4 inches. Exactly 4 inches.
12 centimeters.
Yep. So what you want to look
Yeah.
at on here, I use this part
Yeah.
because this is always going to be the same.
Yeah.
So whilst you're sitting on this sort of nice level ground, right, we measure that, call that 425. So
Yeah.
it wants to be up at 525.
But I think though what happens though is it sinks when you connect
yes,
the van.
yes, but I'm not
Yeah.
worried about that
All right.
because
Okay.
I'm encountering all that into
Right,
that.
okay.
Because when I measured this is when it was on
Right.
tow. So we've accounted for all that.
Yeah.
So that's why I do it whilst you're sitting here now. We want this up to be 525.
Right.
Okay?
Okay.
That's that at 525.
Right. Okay.
That gives you level,
Yeah.
mathematically level on the van.
Yeah. Great.
Okay?
525.
525. Now,
do I need to write that down?
I
Is
can
that-
put it in my
yeah,
report for you.
Put it in the report.
Now the main hitch that I really like is the Mr. Hitches.
Mr. Hitches.
It's a 4-ton 12-stage adjustable,
Uh-huh.
and you got to make sure there's 2 part numbers. I think it ends in 5XD and 5XDS.
Yeah.
S for short shank.
Yeah.
Okay. I think they're around 159 on
Yeah.
Real Outfitters or some website
Yeah.
like that. I'll find it and I'll text that. Now the other thing that I've noticed
Yeah,
that
so there's
slot.
a little tightening screw
Yeah,
underneath.
you never have that tight when you're on tow.
Yeah.
Do not tighten that up when you're on.
Yeah.
You can have it off tow, you can tighten it up.
So that's okay to have the shape?
No, all I'd really do is just get like an aluminium can, Coke can, something like that, cut it up and just put a slither underneath it. One slither at a time.
Right.
And that'll tighten that slop up.
Okay.
Put it underneath. Okay? That'll tighten that slop up and be much nicer.
Yeah,
but you
okay.
can't tighten that screw up when
Yeah.
you're on tow.
Yeah, okay.
It'll start breaking stuff.
Yeah. Right.
Alright?
Okay.
Beautiful.
We didn't expect this video to be so rich in information, and originally we'd just have included the footage in a future video. However, the learnings about the front axle weights and the weight distribution between the caravan axles were really worth sharing. Overall, we're really happy with our results. All the key numbers are well within target, although as you can see, the van is much closer to the limit than the Ranger, so we'll need to make sure we carry any extra kit in the car rather than the van. It's also worth mentioning that there is sufficient headroom for a steel bullbar when hitched to the caravan, but as we explore later, not when unhitched. And as we four-wheel drive with the local club, that would be a compliance issue for us, and we'd like to avoid that. The numbers you see here are those once the imbalance between the caravan axles was corrected by raising the hitch. Okay, warning, this is where things get a bit technical. Let's look at the front axle limits and the bullbar. Ford recommends the ARB Summit 2 steel bullbar for the Ford Ranger. And until today, it was our intention to go down that route. But I say to Ford and ARB, your figures don't add up. At least not for a vehicle that doesn't carry a fit out or considerable weight in the rear to compensate for the weight of the Summit 2. So let's look at those calculations. First of all, the weight carried on the front of the car will be more when it's considered at the axle. That's due to the overhang of the front of the car to the front axle, and so that's called the front overhang, and that's calculated by dividing the front overhang by the wheelbase. So in the case of a standard Ford Ranger Wildtrak that is, and these figures come from the brochure and spec sheet. The overhang is 865 millimeters, as you can see on the illustration here, and the wheelbase is 3,270. So we divide that, we get 0.26, meaning that any weight carried on the front of the car will add approximately whatever that weight is, plus 26% to the axle. So we need this data when looking at the weights of the ARB bullbars that are of interest to us. Looking at this table, you'll see there's a weight on axle column that has that 26% higher figure, and that's obviously the key figure for us. Talking about axle weights, the Ranger's front axle limit is 1490 kilos, and we weighed in at 1423. So that's just 67 kilos available for a bullbar and maybe lights measured at the axle. And since we need a bit of margin for other bits and pieces in the car, we're really limited to about 60 kilos on the axle. So take off 20%, that's about 48 kilos only on the front of the car. So we confirmed these weights, the weights of the bullbars that is, with ARB in Port Macquarie, who were quite surprised by our situation. And the table shows that we've got few options here. Maybe the Stealth bar or a Spartan bar, but without the lights. So we're really a bit disappointed, and all your comments and suggestions would be welcome here. You know, what other bullbars and lights should we be looking at that would fit our 48 kilo weight requirement and still retain the Ranger's sensors? And that last thing is important to us, is to retain the technology that the new Ranger is providing. So do please comment. We're really keen to remain legal, and at this point we're not considering a GVM upgrade or drawers in the tub, but who knows. Finally, on this topic, a shout out to L2 SFBC Robert Pepper, from whom we learned about this potential issue, and there's a link in the description that can help with that. The second topic is the weight distribution between the caravan axles. And in the video you heard Michael say that we had 300 more kilos on the front axle than on the rear axle, and that the fix was actually surprisingly easy. So we progressively raised the hitch and a total of 100 mil raised, and for us that was from 425 mil to 525 measured at the tow ball, and so that reduced the difference between the axles from around 300 kilos to 30 kilos. So obviously much better. It's a really simple solution, but without Michael from Coffs Coast Caravan Weighing, we wouldn't have known about this. So we're now expecting the van to be more comfortable to tow and to also see less uneven wear on the tyres. We've ordered the adjustable tow hitch, that's for Mr. Hitches, and you can look in the description for the link of what we're getting. So this video's got a lot of information which is relative to our setup, but that we think may be of interest to others. And so all these references are included in the description, along with a link to a video that explains all the towing acronyms, the GCM, ATM, GTM, GVM, and so on. And so you'll find that in the description as well. So I hope you find the video useful, and don't forget to like, subscribe, and comment. And as I said earlier, we're especially interested if we should be looking at other bull bars and lights options that don't compromise our sensors. So do please let us know. So goodbye, and see you in the next one, most likely from Tasmania.